He also had one car
alongside the River Seine. Henri Paul knew every inch of the road from the Ritz to Dodi's apartment. He certainly would not have willingly taken the Alma tunnel route, which would have meant going away from Dodi's apartment. As the Mercedes approached the Alma tunnel, chased by a car and at least one motorcycle, his final exit route to the right, to the Champs-Élysées, was blocked by a motorcycle, which forced him to drive into the Alma tunnel.
Nobody yet knows why Henri Paul took the route to the Alma tunnel. But former MI6 agent Richard Tomlinson is certain of one thing. Henri Paul was in the pay of MI6.
I know that Henri Paul worked for MI6, the British intelligence unit that I worked for. I saw his name in files in 1992 on an operation that I was working on, and he worked for MI6 right until his death.
John McNamara takes up the story.
White Fiat Uno waiting at the mouth of the Alma tunnel, and as the Mercedes approached, the Fiat Uno edged over the centre lane, forcing the Mercedes off course. At the same time, a motorcycle pulled in front of the Mercedes, and an eyewitness has said that there was a huge flash which blinded Henri Paul. The combination of speed and the blinding light, along with the intervention of the Fiat Uno, pushed Paul off course, and the Mercedes crashed into the 13th concrete pillar in the tunnel.
For 2 weeks, the crash authorities dismissed the idea that a second car was involved, and finally they admitted to finding a mysterious scratch on the Mercedes that contained paint fragments and bumper material identified as coming from a specially weighted down white Fiat Uno.
It was our investigators, not the French police, who found the Fiat Uno. It was found in a garage in Paris and traced to a paparazzi named James Anderson.
Mohammed Al-Fayed and John McNamara are convinced that some of the paparazzi and possibly the driver of the Fiat Uno were MI6 agents whose mission was to stop the announcement of the forthcoming engagement to which the royal family was so opposed.
Anderson was an Anglophile with close connections to the British. According to Anderson, he was in Paris at the time of the crash, but for some unexplained reason decided to get up at 3:30 a.m., 2 hours after the crash, and board a flight to Corsica from Orly Airport in Paris. The French police and the magistrate accepted an alibi based on a simple gas receipt from Anderson, albeit that the paint and bumper samples from the white Fiat Uno matched those left on the Mercedes.
3 years later, the Anderson story took an unexpected and sinister turn.
Philip Anderson was found burned to death in his car. The car was locked. He could only be identified from dental records.
Then the plot took another startling twist. About a week later, 3 masked men broke into Anderson's office in Paris and shot the security guard.
The burglars spent 3 hours ransacking the office, and despite frantic phone calls from people in the office, the Paris police never attended. In fact, some people in the photo agency actually felt the burglars were from the French security services. Undoubtedly, the security services were looking for photographs taken before, at the time and after the crash, which would show the presence of British MI6 officers there. Sometime later, in fact a matter of 36 hours, a photographic agency in London was broken into, as was the home of a photograph agent.
There were a number of eyewitnesses to the crash, whose evidence raises disturbing questions. One of those witnesses was François Lavichte.
When I drove down here in my car, I was doing 68, 70 miles an hour. I looked back in my rear-view mirror and saw headlights, just like you see now.
driving a Ford car. He says he saw another car, then the black Mercedes, travelling behind him at some speed with a motorbike alongside.
I'm in the middle of the tunnel. I can see the headlights approaching. You can see the headlights because it's dark. It's night time. You can see the headlights of the car coming with the motorbike headlights, because you can distinguish between the headlights of a motorbike and those of a car. And the motorbike was driving alongside the car. Well, now we can say that it's a Mercedes. Well, anyway, the motorbike, when it enters, when the Mercedes, when it comes, it drives over the crown of the road to enter the tunnel. At that moment, the Mercedes, the motorbike, accelerates. And you can see the acceleration of the motorbike because you can see the headlight rise up a bit. The bike is accelerating. I'm halfway through the tunnel, inside, when the motorbike accelerates, cuts the Mercedes up.
The police have not identified this fast-moving motorbike, even though many witnesses have described it, some in considerable detail. Eric Lee remembers it as it passed him in the first tunnel.
There was a taxi in front of me as we were going down. A Mercedes turned up behind me, flashing its lights at me. So I moved back over to let it pass, and the car went past very, very fast. Very, very fast. I can still remember the sound it made, and it was followed by a motorbike 10 meters or so behind.
This motorbike is crucial because of what Francois Levistre says he saw as it drew alongside the Mercedes in the tunnel.
At that moment, there's a big white flash. A massive white light. I'm looking in the rear-view mirror, and it's then, at that moment, that I see the motorbike, and I think to myself, well, I think lots of things. I think, why did the motorbike cut them up?
The flash. Was this flash like a photo flash?
No, it was stronger than a photo flash, or else it was a massive photo flash. It was a big white light, like this one.
Like lightning?
Yes, but quick. And it's then, when you're in the tunnel, and on top of that in the dark, you can see. You're forced to. It's like a radar speed trap, because I've been asked whether it could be a radar speed trap. It's not a radar